Hi, I'm Neil and thank you very much for joining me today for a review of Destinies from Lucky Duck Games. This is a 1 to 3 player board game RPG with skill dice checks, adventuring, discovering and some battling thrown in for good measure. There are 5 scenarios in the base box and each one takes roughly 60 minutes. Special thanks to Lucky Duck Games and the UK Board Games Review Circle on Instagram for the loaned review copy. However, all thoughts are definitely my own. I was really looking forward to this one, as I like choose your own adventure type games, with a branching story and consequences for your actions. So I read the rules, set up the game ready for an exciting time, played the tutorial scenario with Helen, and I knew about halfway through this was not going to be a game for her. She proclaimed that all we're doing is moving, reading some text and then rolling some dice. She said it was boring, I disagreed, and it was at this point that we agreed that I would continue with the game solo. The solo mode is quite interesting as you can choose to play it with a strict time limit where you will most likely fail quite a few times, or with a more leisurely pace with no time limit enabling you to visit as many locations as you want, chatting to the locals, killing some monsters and generally RPGing it up. The skill checks are interesting and you will probably initially fail about half of the time, but this is sometimes good as you will be rewarded with experience points which you can use to increase your skills so you don't fail the next time. The dice exhaustion system is clever and as is the dual use of items. Do I discard this now for a great one-time benefit, or do I hold on just in case I meet someone who needs this toolbox? The story is very engaging with lots of interesting characters to meet and problems to solve. I often found myself tempted to borrow a loaf of bread from a bakery or some coins from the church collection, but the thought that this could come back to bite me on the backside kept me on the straight and narrow, even though that bread would have really come in handy. There is a lot of stuff in the box, with loads of minis, item cards, landscape cards, gold, experience points and so much more. Although the minis looked nice most of the time, I found them very fiddly to differentiate which one I should be playing with. I also came away a bit underwhelmed with the art on the cards and landscape cards. It didn't feel epic enough for the story that was unfolding in front of me. I've enjoyed my plays of Destiny and I applaud the designers for making an RPG board game that can be played with so many branching decisions and consequences. However, I did find a few things a little annoying. The minis are numbered on the app, but when you look in the box there are no numbers on them, meaning when you're looking for very small plastic figures for very slight differences to make sure you have the right one for the map, it's very difficult. Finding the right items in the landscape tiles is also a question of hunting through the large decks for them. Talking of the landscape tiles, because they are just thick paper, they never sit well on the table and it looks a little messy. Putting the game away is a bit of a pain as well because I like to keep the game ready for the next session. So I like to put all of the tiles and items back in their correct numerical order, which really added to the teardown time. Although I will say the box insert is pretty special and holds everything perfectly. I just wish there was a better way of preparing the game for the next session. When played at 2 or 3, the game is essentially a race to complete your destiny first. This does make for an exciting experience, but not necessarily the one I was expecting. If you play it solo on the chill mode, it feels more akin to what I was hoping for. Lots of time to plod around helping folks, discovering more about the lore, and building yourself up for the finale. The game's biggest problem is also its crowning glory, the app. The app does so much heavy lifting for you with keeping track of the story progression, where people are, etc. Most of the game is spent looking at and reading from the app, and it feels like it has leaned into this just a bit too far. I came away from every session thinking the same thing. Why is this not just an epic computer game rather than a board game? Would I buy this game for my collection? Unfortunately not. The fiddly nature and the overwhelming thing that the whole game should be played via the app wouldn't leave me and took away from what was happening on the table. Things I really like is it has a great story, the rulebook is very easy to read and gets you going straight away, and there are lots of interesting choices. Some things that really dragged the game down for me was the fiddly nature of it, with the minis looking for the items and tiles, etc. and the overwhelming feeling that it should have just been on the app completely. My rating is it's worth playing once. I did enjoy my time with it and I would play it again and be happily to teach people, but I would say that's about it. Worth playing once to see whether or not it ticks all the boxes for you. My Board Game Geek rating is a 6.5 out of 10, and this is mostly because of the app. The app really has great voice acting and it keeps track of things, which is really clever, but once again, it still brings me back to the fact that this could have just been a computer game or an app-based game. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. I've been Neil, and I hopefully will see you on the next one. Cheers!